Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, from start to finish, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
We continue celebrating and remembering the life of the 60th Republican President, Dr. Edgar Lungu, right here on Millennium TV. Be sure to catch us on your top steady quarters on Channel 85 and on our Facebook page. It is Millennium TV Zambia. I'm your host, Lovisa Chilufia. This afternoon on the program, we feature Zambia Must Prosper Party President, Mr. Kelvin Fube-Wale, who is also a member of the Tonsai Alliance, and somebody that shared a very close relation with the 60th Republican President. And of course, we are here to talk about how the Zambia Must Prosper Party leader will remember the late ECL. Mr. President, you're welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Machulufa, and good afternoon, viewers.
And please accept my condolences.
Thank you very much. We're trying to recover from the shock yesterday, but we're getting there.
We all know, and I understand personally, that you know, in the last days before the 60th Republican President left for South Africa, you were very close. We saw you having closed door meetings and discussing certain things just to reconcile. Because we know that well coming from you didn't have, a proper relationship with him, but he took a step to actually have a meeting with you, and you spoke about certain things that you've discussed on this platform. Let us talk about how you received the news of his passing.
It was shocking. It was devastating to a point that if you were not ready, one would have collapsed. We were just coming from having a press program with the press in my office. We were discussing the constitutional amendments.
Right.
And then I received a message and I was told, have you heard about your brother from South Africa? And I thought, and I said, okay, there can only be one person to whom this question is relating. So I called the ADC, Wachanda. He told me he had just arrived in Zambia and he was not in South Africa. But he knew that the president had a procedure to attend at the hospital. That worried me even more. So I said, okay, do you have information? He said, no. I said, please try and get the information. I also try using other avenues. I called friends close. They all said, I've just flown back to Zambia and I'm not in South Africa. Eventually, I got to speak to some close friends to the late president. And then he said, give me 5 minutes. I'm just confirming something. Then, true to the words of the friend, he came back and said, confirmed, just like that. And that confirmed simply meant to me we had lost the president. I immediately locked my office and I needed a moment to recompose, to think and get myself about, because I just come from an emotional press briefing and now this. I picked up the phone and I sent a message to my wife. I called my ADC and I told the commander we had a problem. But I asked him to verify, double check. And as I kept praying in my office, my ADC came back and knocked and he said, boss, double checked, double correct. I knew what that meant. I still locked myself in the office and I thought I needed to get on my knees and just pray, because now I had emotions running in my mind and memories, and I was thinking, was there anything I should have said, something I should have done? I had been in South Africa 3 weeks ago, and we carried on our discussions. Been quite heavy, actually. It's you need to be strong.
After you visited him 3 weeks ago, was there any other time that you spoke to him before
On phone.
yesterday?
On phone, yes. I think we spoke about 3-4 times on phone, and his main message was improve the unity in Tonsai. I want to come back and find you guys united, and then we're going to do what we need to do so that we begin executing Plan B. And that's it.
As someone that had the privilege to meet with him in person when he was away, how was his condition looking like?
Oh, he was very jovial. The usual. He was very upbeat. He made all of us feel everything was well. Like he was in control of his health. You would ask, what's wrong? No, they're checking my throat. I have a few issues here and there, but nothing serious. You could talk, eat, laugh. It didn't seem it would come to this. No. It was a shock.
Right. You've worked with the Patriotic Front. You were a member of the Patriotic Front at some point. You've worked closely with President Lungu before, even before you guys you had issues with him. Let us talk about how you first met the late president.
Politically, or as a lawyer?
Either as a lawyer or politically.
He was a lawyer just like I am, and we would meet in court, obviously, from the legal perspective. But he was generally in the corporate world. He, I think, worked for Barclays Bank. He went to ZCCM, if I recall, ZISC. So he was really like legal counsel here, legal officer there. Yeah. So whenever you had sued a corporation like that, that's when you'd see him. He wasn't into much of criminal law. He wasn't into much of proper litigation per se, but it contracts, conveyancing, that sort of thing. So from the legal perspective, I knew him, and we would meet sometimes at bar association meetings and things like that. Politically, we got close, I think, when we were working both under the late Michael Chilufya, the 5th Republican president, the late, and he was then the MP for Chawama, and I think Home Affairs Minister, then Secretary General at the time. I think he was also Justice. Anyway, he had a lot of portfolios. I forget now. Maybe I might...
Minister of Justice, Home Affairs.
I might be confused because of the emotions and everything. But those portfolios. To a point that when we run up to the elections in 2011, fighting the late President Rupiah Banda's regime in the MMD, and when we took over power, he first was posted, I think, to the office of the Vice President as the Deputy Minister in the Vice President's office to do with disaster. And then eventually rose to a full cabinet minister and then through the ranks. We got closer in 2014 because upon the death of Vasata in London, I think I was the 4th or 5th person that Lungu was calling to his home when he was at Lewanika, and he was acting president at the time. He had sent police to come and pick me up from home. And when I got to Lewanika house, he basically just told me that we had lost the 5th Republican president, late Michael Chilufya in London, and he wanted to see how we could streamline the country and organize for elections, because by that time the constitution demanded that there was going to be a by-election. But obviously, turmoil, erupted within the Patriotic Front. People began to jostle for power. There were a lot of candidates vying for this and that. And at the time, the late president was quite reluctant to push that agenda because he was like, look, before KBF, he always had that attitude. It's like Nshirefaya, unless you people really want to be. But we told him, we said, look, you've got 4 portfolios. The late president must have seen something in you. He may not have said it publicly, but surely all indications were that he trusted you more than the others. So that perspective, I think he got. My overest, some family members got involved. We had meetings. The late William Sanda, chairman of the party at that time, was Samuel Chomba. Is it Samuel? Mukupa, sorry. Mukupa. And then some other senior party officials came in. Then we decided, look, we want to float your candidature. And he said, I'm game if you're game. But if it's going to be a hassle, I don't want. So we pushed that agenda. We had to go for a convention. As you know, the Patriotic Front constitution at the time demanded that a candidate had to be endorsed. So Mulungushi came. We held that Mulungushi conference. He emerged as the candidate for the party. There was a purported second convention which Guy Scott wanted to push, trying to push the candidature of Mao Sampa and the rest of the crew, but we blocked that. We got an injunction against the second convention. You can't have 2 conventions in the same party in 1 year. So people said that I woke up a judge in the night. Yes, I did. Was it illegal? No, it wasn't. Was it normal? Very normal. I have no regrets about that. I know people want to scandalize that and make it seem like it was something illegal that was done. There was nothing illegal. It was all legal, done over and above, across the board. I know that the UPND have thrown mud in this kind of arrangement, but that's the law. If you are a good lawyer, you know how to use the law, you use it. And we use the law. And when we came back to Lusaka, the rest is history. We started campaigns. We had lost almost 29 days fighting within ourselves. We had almost just 21, 23 days to campaign to make sure that Edgar Lungu won the 2015 elections. So he won those elections. Come August the next year, 2016, we still used the same machinery, same strategic planning. He won those elections. And both times he was beating Hakainde Hichilema at that time. In 2015, 20th January 2015, the elections were. In 2016, August 13th, I think, the elections were. Both times he beat Hakainde Hichilema, and he won those elections. Yeah.
At what point did you decide to leave the Patriotic Front?
I did not decide to leave the Patriotic Front. I was expelled. You know, the problem with some people at the time within the parties, they felt that I was too straight. Now, when you're a lawyer, you've got to stand by the Constitution. And the Constitution at the time did indicate that, and still does actually, that a presidential candidate can only be sworn in twice. He wins elections twice. If he's sworn in twice, he can be sworn in a third time. I opposed Lungu's candidature in 2021. So the party faithful at the time, the senior members, felt I was against the establishment. So they decided to expel me. And I left the party after that expulsion. But funny thing, they expelled me verbally in 2019 and only served me a letter 1 year later in 2020. I accepted it. I left it. But I did tell them that I think on this point, Mukashala Mwimamoni, because I felt I was right. They lost the election. Unfortunately.
Going forward, you were not in good terms with the 60th Republican president. And then you went and joined the UPND. You worked with the UPND as well. Later on, we saw you reconciling with the late 60th Republican president. You had a closed-door meeting where you discussed issues. He was endorsed as Tonsai Alliance president for 2026, even though the courts had decided that he wasn't eligible to contest 2026. And as somebody who also thought that he wasn't eligible to contest the 2021 general elections, did you think the Tonsai Alliance taking that route to endorse him for the 2026 general elections under NCP was the right move?
In politics, sometimes people make statements, but they don't mean the statements. Edgar Lungu was a lawyer just like myself. And when we did have closed-door meetings, the late president had accepted the decision of the Concord of the 10th December last year. He had accepted. And he told me categorically, Wabualia, I'm not running for office. Whoever kept propelling that narrative that the late president was going to be a candidate in 2026, I think was just politicking and was just trying to be mischievous. But the late president himself had accepted. I think he issued a statement accepting the decision of the Concord, and he was ready to move on. And that's at that point, if people remember correctly, that's when he announced that he had a plan B. I think we all heard that. That sent shivers into the UPND. Now they started saying, what is this plan B? Maybe it is illegal. Maybe Edgar Lungu was not about illegalities. No. He had a plan. But the plan was only given life to a very few selected people, if I may say that. And very few people, even in the hierarchy of Tonsai, knew what plan B was. But he did whisper to some of us what plan B was. And that's what I hope we're going to execute now. Yeah.
When you worked with him in the Tonsai Alliance, how did you then help him just achieve his leadership roles in the alliance?
He was chairman of Tonsai. That's the position that he accepted to hold, and that's the position which he held until he died. And by that token, his main role was to try and bring in as many opposition political parties to join Tonsai so that we could form a formidable alliance. But part of the discussions we had and did discuss was that we may not achieve 100% all of the opposition parties coming together. However, if we could achieve 70, 80%, I was very sure from a strategic planning perspective, we could win the elections with 80% of the opposition together. We don't need 100% which is toxic. But if we've got 80% which is fluid and understanding and loving, that is the way to go. And that's the hope that the Zambians want to see in Tonsai. The problem we have with having or wanting to achieve 100% but toxic is that there will be too many egos. And when we have too many egos at the table, we may not do what the Zambian people want us to do. We'll be fighting between and amongst each other instead of solving the problems and getting rid of the UPND. And that's what the UPND wants. The UPND wants to see confusion in Tonsai. So it is possible, and we must be very careful as Tonsai, that some people may be sponsored. It is also possible that some people may just come there because of their own aims and objectives, which may not be the overriding factor of Tonsai. Tonsai's main objective, and this is what Lungu shared with me and other people you may ask privately, his main aim was, let us liberate the Zambian people. We made a mistake by trying to go into the elections in 2021 fragmented, divided. I don't want that. Now, coming back together, at least in my view, although I lead a political party today, there is nobody in PF, in the leadership of PF, right through to the ward or district level, that I wouldn't know. I was running the elections of PF for a very long time. I worked with Basata 2006, 2008, 2011. I worked with Lungu 2014, 2015, 2016. I know the leadership structure of PF. I know the constitution of PF. And that is the biggest party we have in terms of opposition. And they have more members of parliament than any other party right now. So we've got to align that. But that doesn't mean that as Tonsai, we should accept everything that PF wants. No, we should come and bring our heads together, work for the benefit of the Zambians, and find the best solution to win the next general elections. And that's what Lungu wanted. Yes.
Let me take you back a little bit. A conversation, obviously, that has sparked, a lot of confusion and has attracted criticism right now, which is a topic of discussion even on social media, is that the government till now hasn't officially announced the passing of the late 60th Republican president. I don't know what your take is on that.
It is unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Unfortunate that even when you look at the news as at yesterday, ZNBC, the national broadcaster, was glossing over the death of the 6th Republican president like it was a kidnapping which had gone on in Kanyama. They wanted to project like the nation has not lost a leader. That to me is very irresponsible. We cannot be hateful, even in death. I know that the president of this country, Hakainde Hichilema, issued a statement on his page trying to say that Zambians must mourn together and blah, 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 and the blah, 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 and the blah, blah, blah. But that to me is just talk. The relationship between Hakainde Hichilema and Edgar Lungu, the late president, was not healthy. Hakainde Hichilema lost many opportunities to bridge the difference between the two and harmonize this nation. Edgar Lungu was one of the most easygoing people to talk to. I had differences with Lungu 2020, 2021, like I told you. But when he said, Babwadia is in Tulande, we were able to sit 3-4 meetings, had lunch 2-3 times, sat, talked, open. And he kept saying to me, we are now wiser. We are Christians. Let's forgive each other. Whatever mistakes were made in the past, let's forget. Let's move on. I know that he was open if Hakainde Hichilema was going to say, my brother, let's sit down. Genuinely. Genuinely. Edgar Lungu was willing to listen. And he was willing to give this country breathing space and the healing that the nation needed. Hakainde lost that. Why do I blame it on Hakainde Hichilema? Not because he is going to be competition going forward, but because I know Hakainde Hichilema. The current president today is very proud. He's my friend, I know him. Extremely proud. He wants everyone who goes before him to be the one to kneel. One, Edgar Lungu was a president before him. Two, Edgar Lungu is older than me and Hakainde Hichilema. So even traditionally. But today, Hakainde Hichilema is the one in authority. So he should have been the bigger person. He should have been the one to say, Bakalamba, can we sit down and talk? He never wanted to have a harmonious relationship with Edgar Lungu. Edgar Lungu has gone to his grave a very disappointed man with this government. That is why, if the people of Zambia will remember, when they were renting the house of Stopela Sunzu, somewhere in Abex Hill, it came to a point where police were sent to go and try and break gates using machines and other things, looking for a VITS, a motor vehicle VITS. Ati Lungu, Wamaewa Esther Lungu, na beba motor ka VITS. That was very painful for the president and his family. I think it was at that point that Edgar Lungu said, look, if it's the police that you think I need, if it's the accommodation that you think I need, if it's the allowance that you're giving me that you think I need, take it. That is how we moved out of that house. Now, when a president who is entitled to emoluments, a person who is entitled to privileges like that, gives them up, as a president, Aga in the HLM at this case, as a government in power, it is your duty to find diplomatic ways to bridge and make sure that you bring and heal that process. Aga in the HLM never wanted that. So Edgar Lungu said, fine, you keep whatever you think belongs to government. I'll live in my poor state. He went to his home and he started living away from government expenses. Even when he was going to South Africa, he had reviews once or twice to go to South Africa. If you may recall, you're the journalists and your diaries might be better than mine. On one or two occasions, Edgar Lungu was blocked at the airport. On one occasion, he was pulled out of a plane when he was going for review. And today, I see cabinet office or some funny media personnel within the UPND trying to flash letters on social media saying in 2023 they had allowed Lungu to go and receive medication. But you are blocking him. You're right, but you block him. How can he leave if he doesn't use the airport? This is the same, and I'm sorry to disgrace just a bit here. This is the same attitude I saw with the late Edith Nawakwi. We buried our late sister, may her soul rest in peace, Edith Nawakwi, this April. It's just May. This is June. We've lost Edgar Lungu. Same mentality by this government. There was a time when Edith Nawakwi had gone to India. The doctors had told her, by this period, you must come back for review. When she wanted to go at the airport, once or twice again, I recall, I was talking to Edith. He said, my brother, Navankanyo. Everything arranged. A person is sick. Now, you know, illnesses are private. But you block somebody from going to seek medical attention. The person dies, you want to go and start giving speeches. You want to go and start giving eulogies. This lack of care, this lack of sensitivity, this lack of humanity, which we is lacking in this government. This government does not care whether you and I die, but they want to come and give speeches at your graveyard. That's not how it works. I shouldn't be discussing these matters, but they're out of court now. I was one of the lawyers attending to the case of my brother, GBM. It took a lot of negotiation to have GBM flown to South Africa for medicals. Up to the point that he was saying, look, whatever it takes, my health comes first. Whatever they want me to sign, I'll sign. But I need to go. Bail pending appeal, no. This and that, no. You want the person to die in custody? Look, even the law says if a person is sick, he needs medical attention, let him go. Coming back to Lungu, same thing. Same thing about Chirufia. Lungu needed to see his doctors at a certain time. So this time when he was going, he had missed certain reviews. Now with doctors, when they say come back in 3 months, they mean 3 months, not 2 years. So for me, I have a problem with this government.
Right. There are sessions that, because the president had returned to active politics, maybe this is why government hasn't taken it upon themselves to announce his passing.
Rachurufia and the nation of Zambia. Let me say this. Amano yachifiarirwa yakana. Whether the person had returned to active politics or he had not, He was a president of this country. He has died. Recognize that. Acknowledge that. That's important. We can't sit here and pretend. So because he was in active politics, so what? He's not a leader? He was never president? What justification is this? I feel sorry for my brother Patrick Kangwa, Secretary of the Cabinet. What explanation is he going to give the Zambian people? Hello, Patrick Muremba. Therefore, I want him to explain. Maybe his president doesn't have Intambi, but I'm asking Patrick. Let's be real. Whether a person is in active politics or not, he was the president of this country. That you can't take away from him. He held office twice in this country. So how are we going to deny him what is due to him? That is where I find a problem in seeing leadership in Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND. They are too personal. Whether you've got differences with somebody or not, but let's do this. And therefore, we push Avena Zambia, generally across the board, whether you're from this tribe, that tribe, or the other tribe. Even when you are divorced with a woman and you had been married with a woman, you've got children, Moaikala, but you divorce. When you hear that your ex-wife or your ex-husband has died, don't you go to mourn? I want the Zambians to answer that question. Vana chimbusa, if imbusa fiesu finjebe, bushe tatulosha umulume nangu mwalilekana. The answer is tulalosha. He could be married, but when you go there, you're not going there as a wife. You're going to pay last respect. Because you shared a relationship with this person. You shared children with this person. In time, this is how we live. In this particular case, it does not matter whether Edgar Lungu had returned to active politics or not. The point is, Edgar Lungu was the 6th Republican president of this country. He is required to be given a state funeral. He is required to be respected in death. If you're going to take the difference of opinion, the difference of looking at the Zambian economy, the Zambian politics, the differences, the personal issues between Hakainde Hichilema and Edgar Lungu, and you bring them to the national level, then I'll be disappointed. Because that's not leadership.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.